Baby, it's cold outside. Let's see if the rates are heating up. Stay tuned. Bang your head. Warm up a little bit. All right. Good morning. It is Friday, December 6th. It is cold outside. So I figured I'd go live real quick. This won't be a long one because Jeff's got me watching the helm for a few things. Um, so, anyways, I hope all is well. We're going to go over a little bit of weather and go over a little bit of the rates right now. So it won't be a long live feed. I really don't have much to say. I know that there's some arguing online about broker transparency, and I think CDN sent me something. I have not been having a chance to look at it, but that's kind of the thing. The argument for me is null and void because I don't know. Maybe it's because of my perspective of watching my dad as an owner operator. Sorry, in the 80s. Got my words mixed up there. Dealing with brokers and dealing with direct freight and all that, and and I think that there's a perfect balance, and there are shady brokers just as much as there are shady carriers. I mean, that's why we're all, C.H. Robinson announced that they're going to highway. So if you are not good with highway, and you use a lot of C.H. Robinson, the world is about to change for you. So that's something that you have to, here's something to consider, okay? While everybody is concerned about what the broker's getting and what the broker's doing, no one is addressing the real powerhouse, which are the companies that are data mining and they're getting all the information, right? And he who has the most information can do the most manipulation. For example, if I was watching football last night. I was watching Detroit and the Green Bay game, and I didn't finish watching it. It was just on as background noise, really. And imagine a team that goes in a football game not knowing any plays, not knowing any information about the other team, not knowing what strategies to use, right? The team that's the most prepared and has the most talent, obviously, and a little tiny bit of luck is going to win the game. And that's how life is, right? And so when you go into a situation, you want to know all the information that you can. And I really don't think that the broker transparency rules that have been implemented are really going to help anything. If anything, the people with the most information that can go around the rules, if they want to go around the rules, are going to go around the rules. I mean, there are ways to inflate or to deflate numbers, right? There's going to be loopholes. And so like companies like Schneider, JB Hunt, not only are they aware of the rules coming up, but they've already got plans to go around the rules. And then they're big enough that they create the rules, such as look what JB Hunt's done to the intermodal part of our industry, right? So when you look at Carrier 411 and Highway and like Ryan Trans has, they got a brokerage, they got a factoring company, they got fuel cards. So they see the bills, they see what you're paying for fuel, they see, that they can see everything. And if any of you independent carriers are, filling out carrier packets, how much information you got to give to these betting companies. Those are the people that are going to have the real power. It's that simple. And that's what everybody should be concerned about. Eventually, the rates are going to come up. The rates are coming up as far as I can see. Eventually, the things are going to change in our capacity's favor, but this time they're more prepared. They're not going to be caught with their pants down like they were in 2020. And so recognizing that, addressing that, and having a preparation for that, that's the key to success right now. How do you go through the industry with the new obstacles that we now have? Getting your authority 5 years ago was a lot easier than it is now. It's still easy to get your authority, but maintaining it is the difficulty. I've watched a few of my friends and a few of my enemies lose their authority because they couldn't adapt to the change, or the changes were too overwhelming for them because of the cards that are stacked against every single owner operator out here in this industry. Whether you're an owner operator for Schneider or a single truck operation by yourself, you have obstacles, you have people watching you, you have everybody that knows every aspect of your business. And that's something that you need to consider, right? So just that's what everybody should be addressing. CDN and has told me a lot of what he sees as far as what his brokerage looks at, and that's very valuable information. You want broker transparency, become friends with the broker. Allow them, see if they'll allow you to see into their world a little bit. See their challenges and see what they deal with and see what their sales teams are doing. Rig Runner used to have a person here that was trying cold call sales and it wasn't working. It's not as easy as everybody thinks, right? And so just like any industry, I don't care if you're a coffee shop owner or a pizza shop owner or a record store owner, there are good and bad apples of every industry. And like in the world of retail, You can have your small mom independent shop, and deal with those challenges, or you can have, a franchise to a bigger corporation and have advantages and disadvantages, right? And this is, I mean, all the apps, like the fraud has allowed, what it's done, it's forced the brokers to go, you know what, we need our own platforms like Uber and Convoy. We need to have our own platforms. Like, how often do you see a CH Robinson loan on the DAT board? Not very often. And so everybody that's running with a CH Robinson app or a JB Hunt app or, Uber app, and you're primarily booking loads through that, there, think of all the thousands of carriers that are doing the same thing. That's how much, like, if they know where all the trucks are at, if they know where all the loads are at, and they're presented with so many loads on their screen, and they're presented with so many trucks in the area, that's the give and take of leverage. And the more information that they have on the carriers, then that's leverage that you can't even begin to fathom. I had a friend of mine that went to one of Sonar's seminars, like one of the first ones, and he told me, he goes, Steve, you have no idea the amount of information that platform has, and how that information is going to be used to go against a small owner operator, against the small carriers. Now they'll sell you their $6,000 a year program, which I don't know what the cost is. I know it's pretty high. So you can get all the insights that all the bigger carriers can afford, and that's great that you have access to the information. But guess who else has access to the information? The big guys. Open up your homepage to your Chrome or your Firefox browser, and what's there? Amazon, Walmart.com, all these ads. They know. I mean, have you ever like looked at an ad on Facebook and like, wow, how'd they know I like that? Like, sometimes it's like they can read your mind, because the analytics and the information is crazy. There's a movie on Netflix called The Social Experiment, and I highly recommend you watch that, because the amount of data mining, and it's reached our industry. That was the purpose of the ELDs. The purpose of the ELDs was not for safety. It was for compliance and information. And these smaller countries like in Europe, where the truck drivers go on strike, and or the farmers go on strike, they want to make sure that will never happen here. Because as truck drivers, you have the power. You have all the power. But now they know, everything, right? So like for example, that guy that assassinated that CEO of the health place, whatever. All these camera footages of the guy are popping up. Like, you take out an important enough person, they're going to access all those cameras, right? And they're probably going to be able to find the guy, because they have so much information. Like, especially in a place like New York City. New York City, you've got so many cameras, so many security cameras, um, they're going to find this guy, because of the information. And so the more information that you have, the more you can address, whatever, the more you can go after what you need to go after. And that's it. So the broker transparency, is that going to help? Is that information going to help? Is knowing their profit margin going to help? Is knowing their contract going to help? Is it going to help you get the rate? Because at the end of the day, if they only want to give $100, for the load, they have the power. They're the ones with the load. Now, if they tell you, now a lot of them are like, well, this is all we have in it, or I'm losing on this. They use your emotions. We talked about this negotiation tactic. And in some cases, they really are losing. Just like, if you do a load from, say, Kansas City, or no, let's say St. Louis to Denver, you're probably making above your cost. You're probably a bigger profit margin. But the minute you go from Denver to St. Louis, you're going to be way below your profit margin. And so when you look at a brokerage, especially a big one like C.H. Robinson, there are loads that they make a huge amount of profit. Then there are loads that they probably lose profit. It's a balance game, just like you, right? Just like anything, just like any other business. Watch Restaurant Impossible. Watch Shark Tank. These are basic business philosophies, right? And so what I concern myself with is freight volumes. Where's the best freight? Because a lot of times, even that doesn't help. Like all that information from Sonar would be great if I had 20 drivers that were, doing anything and they would do anything and go anywhere at any time without any limitations. And that's where that information is most useful. How can I maximize the profit of each truck, not taking into regard, what their preferences are? And that's how big companies look at drivers, or maybe a company hired you to do this dedicated direct freight that they worked hard to get. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to go back and forth between, Wisconsin to Georgia. That's all you're going to do because I have this direct customer, yada, yada, that kind of thing. And if you don't like it, well, I'll find another driver that will do it. Right. So the strategy is to get as much information as you can and use that information to your advantage because that's what the big guys are doing. And so a lot of these small arguments are meaningless in my world because I'm looking at bigger picture stuff. And here's where broker transparency comes in. What will that do? What kind of changes will that make for me? Will it affect me? And if so, I need to figure out what those obstacles are going to be and then act accordingly. As Wrangler Star would say, act accordingly. So let's go to the comments here, and then we'll look at some freight volumes. Motobomb, Virginia, what's up? Good morning. Good to see you in here. Greg Zimmer, haven't seen you in a minute. Good morning. How's your carnivore thing going? SST, what's up? I love those emoticons. Gen Z, morning all. Successfully ran first full week of spot flatbed freight, TARP 2 loads. Not for faint of heart. No, it isn't. Be careful if you end up delivering or picking up in Denver because, the oxygen is thinner up there. So you don't want to pass out. Delay, deny, depose. Way to kick off Friday morning with easy listening music. Yep, that's what I got, man. Good morning from Indianapolis, says Gary Cook. Just had my turbo on my 2020 Freightliner Cascade replaced. 6,000 replaced. Luckily, I was prepared for it. Well, good deal, man. I'm glad you were prepared for it because I know a couple of months ago on Facebook you were on some dire straits. So I'm glad that the situation's been handled. Now, for a 2020 to lose their turbo, that's interesting to me. So hopefully it didn't cause any other problems. Southbound Jay, what's up? Desert Okie Pam, good morning. My name is Nobody. Good morning. Hope you're feeling better. I don't know what you're dealing with, but I hope you're doing better. A lot of changes at once for C.H. Robinson. Triumph Pay in a few weeks back, and now Highway. Yeah, I mean, look, they're getting with the program, right? They're doing what their competition's doing. Shannon, good morning. Good morning, Steve. Has anyone used current rules and drove to a brokerage office to review their customer's invoice? I have not. But yeah, those rules do exist. You can go see what you're making or what they're making. You can see the contract and everything else. This just kind of forces the hand if you ask for it. Does Samsara work with Highway? Yes. Samsara and Motive are are two of the ELDs that work with highway. If you go with some of the other mom and pop ELDs, that could be a problem. So you got to be careful of that. Music City, C.H. Robinson doesn't hide anything. The CEO announced that they were garnering more percentages from the fuel surcharges and from the carriers as part of their new initiative. Right. How many layoffs have they had? And how much revenue have they lost in the last year? So they're going to compensate themselves. That's what big companies do. That's why I left the manufacturing sector, because I got tired of being laid off. I got tired of the axe always looming, or the jobs going over to Mexico or overseas, whatever. Pop Tart, good morning. Pulped apples equals good apples. Ghost Cat, thank you. C.H. Robinson means cheap and heavy. That keep believing that, because I've had a lot of success with C.H. Robinson, and there's one driver that I dispatched that will not do heavy loads, and we seem to do okay with them. So, but that's fine. There's a lot of people that don't like C.H. Robinson. That's fine. That's just more freight for me. So. Also, they invested heavily in software to track truck units through the apps to use AI for lane rate profit optimization based on unit density and distance from home terminals. Yes. That's one of the great tools of 123 Low Board is you see the green screens, which is the AI platforms. And so when you think about the brokerages using the AI platforms, you can really see what kind of rates to expect. But again, the special stuff that defies the AI, such as the multi-stop and everything like that is where you gain an advantage. So again, I'm using that information to my advantage, which is all what people do. CFH also says he does well with CH. Never really thought about how the big guys with the booking apps pull all that data every time you open the app. Yes, they know where your location is. They know. Like for me, if I open my app, I'm considered a dispatch on Uber, right? So I can assign any of our trucks, and the locations are there. I mean, all I got to do is click on the driver when I book the load, and then click on their truck. It's already tracking. Boom, they already know where you're at. If you're a lot of these, like when you hook up to highway, you gain access. The carrier gain, or the broker gains access to your ELDs. Again, that's why they were there. That's why they were put into place. I mean, I'm sure all the old school guys bragging about running, 2 days straight from California to New York City, that didn't help the situation. But ELDs is something that I adapted to a long time ago, because my company I was at was one of the first ones to go to them. And it was an adjustment for sure. But like all rules, when it benefits the companies, when it benefits the country, what do? They lift hours of service rules. That's like, hey, we know that this is a constriction, but hey, we need relief supplies in the flood zone. So we're gonna, don't worry about the hours of service for now. We need, COVID exemptions. How many use the COVID exemptions like a year later? Oh, this is food, so I can go. And so the rules are in place for the big people to manipulate, and the little ones have to abide by them. So you might as well adapt and overcome. And it is possible, right? Jose says that's true. These brokers already know that I deadhead back to Atlanta rather than take a load out of Florida. They tell me when I'm going to charge to come down to Florida before I tell them. Yep. Only 6K. My 2018 Cascade should be coming out of the shops today. 11K for the turbo. Wow. Yeah, that's about where Kenworth is at too. Rookie Trucker, good morning, everyone. I might be looking for a power only load, Wisconsin to PA in the next couple of days. Any advice? Just no Amazon. Hope all is well. Yeah, you're gonna have to look at the depth board on that one. Unless you go for a loadout trailer, then there's a one-way trailer I think on 123 low board. We can take a look at the power only real quick. Tim Keller is listening to Rob Halford Christmas music. Good morning. That's a good album. Roland Services. Good morning. I'm looking for a 2020 or newer Cascadia with under 500,000 miles spec for fuel mileage. Do you have any leads? Not anymore. I knew a couple, but not anymore. TQL has their own load board, so why does TQL still post loads to DAT? Because there's a lot of hands in that fire, right? There's a lot of hands making that soup. So TQL, see, CH Robinson, JB Hunt, and TQL have different structures when it comes to their agents. TQL is kind of a blanket kind of thing, right? They'll post to DAT and truck stop. They used to post to 123, but they don't anymore. And then they'll still put, because I've seen loads that are on the DAT board that aren't on their app and vice versa. And then when you go to their app, all it says is to call anyways. So it's not like a true click and go system like Uber, right? And it's kind of not. I wish they wouldn't post as much on the DAT board, to be honest with you, because they flood. It gives me a false number. Oh, there's 48 loads in this area, and like 20 of them are TQL, and it's the same load, right? Or it's only 2 loads. And so I'm actually liking some of the adaptation that some of these brokers are going to their own boards. So McPote, Menards in Eau Claire. Is that what that's supposed to say? Really wish trucks would quit deadheading out of Florida. When looking in and out ratios, I might add will count the Florida inbound as Georgia inbound. And here's the thing. So everybody says leave it on the dot. That'll bring the rates up. Well, Florida is a perfect example of how that does not work. Right? Because for the 20, like, okay, let's do this here real quick. Let's share the screen here. Oh, StreamYard's being slow. All right, so check this out. Florida, 1,760 in, 445 out. Oh, I don't know why I did that. If you are going out of Florida, or if you're going into Florida, there's a large chance that you're going to deadhead out. Why? Because there's only 445 loads out coming out of there. So yeah, leave it on the dot. Right? So Reefer 77, happy Friday, everyone. Mrs. A, people should keep their hands out of the soup they're making gross. Use the spoon box. Just living by Tyler playing Yard Hustler these days. Good deal. Southbound J. Good morning, says Mark Ely. Everyone got a great rate out of Knoxville to Windsor Locks, Connecticut, 575 mile. Picks up Saturday, deliver Monday. Great deal. Good deal, man. Is it cheaper for a broker to have their own low board versus DAT or 123 low board? Well, yeah, because it gives them more data, right? Think about Parade. Parade is a platform that multiple brokers use. Parade is an online platform that allows you to book, click and go, and negotiate rates and not talk to a human being. So Parade said, you know what? Not everybody has IT people like Uber. Not everybody has IT people like C.H. Robinson. And they created one. Now, with that being said, like JB Hunt's online platform is very similar to Spot. You can tell it's the same template, right? Just like Parade is the same template for a lot of them. Now, Parade doesn't have an app that I know of, so you have to go through the browser to look at their loads. But for the most part, that's so it's not that it's cheaper. I don't know what the cost is. It's probably more expensive to have your own platform. However, the amount of data that you get from that platform probably pays for it in dividends. That's the whole point of it. Uber was ahead of their time and brought this. Uber and Convoy came out about the same time, and they brought this platform to this industry. And they, and think about this. There are, let me ask the Googles. How many non-domicile CDL holders are there? They don't even know. The exact number of non-domicile CDL holders in the United States is not readily available, but is considered a relatively small portion of the overall CDL holder population. Okay, that's fine. But I know that that's an impact, right? And so you think of a lot of these immigrants that can barely speak, like they don't do well speaking to a broker negotiating rates, but it's easier for them to click and go. They just got to know some basic English or have an interpreter and say, okay, here's your load, right? And they look at freight. A lot of the immigrants look at freight differently. And so that's the other advantage of having an online platform. I mean, there are brokers that are using like an internet chat, kind of like if you go to a website and you need to talk to their AI chatbot, there are brokers that have AI chatbots now. You're not even negotiating with a real human being, but you can type away. And these changes all came within the last 5 years, last 3 years, really, to be honest with you. COVID caused a lot of changes, and the shippers don't want to pay $20,000 per container anymore. They do not want to pay you $5 a mile to go from Houston to St. Louis. Wimpy says Menards always has freight, not the best rated, but gets you to a better market, which is usually the name of the game, right? For all the money TQL spends on it, their app is hard to use, right? And so they don't invest in the IT maybe as well as Uber does. Josh Vegan, howdy. Good, simple-minded people minded like me, right? I do local moves in Florida. Why I wait? Because I can pull 2 loads at 500 in a day. My strategy is to do 2 and then bounce unless I score a load. You think you're in Texas? You're not sure? Oh, I think in Texas it's $12.50 for a non-resident CDL. My wife booked a load with an AI voice bot the other day, right? And you're a one truck operation, dude. That's just how it is, man. That's the world we live in. You got to adapt if you want to overcome. It sucks, but what else are you going to do, right? Direct freight is a great luxury, but it takes maintenance. And if your company has a high turnover rate with a low volume, like in other words, if you got 10 trucks and you have a high turnover rate, you cannot, it's harder to maintain a direct account. And that's just the reality of it. You got to have equipment. A lot of these accounts want drop trailers. They don't want you sitting in the dock. They want that trailer dropped, and then they'll load you at their leisure. When I was a company driver, I always like cringed when I went into a place that I saw had like, it was a huge warehouse, 100 docks, and there was only like 1 or 2 trucks alive loading. I knew that I was probably in for a wait. And 9 times out of 10, that was the case. Why? Because they're used to dealing with drop trailers. Every time I look for loads on TQL app, it says no loads found. Yeah, I have found that there's some manipulation with the app you got to do. And it also depends on what area you're in, right? You can get into the Neuralink and become one of them. That's going to be your next option. You'll have Google ads in your mind when you go to sleep. Direct customers are hard to maintain with zero turnover. With zero turnover, yeah, let alone having any kind of turnover. Because not only do you have to worry about the drivers, but you have to worry about the equipment. We got a driver down right now with a blown radiator. Gary Cook just fixed his turbo. That causes downtime. And some of these contracts, some of this direct rate, man, if you don't have another truck to cover it, it could be a bad day. It allows somebody to come in an opportunity to come in and outperform you. When I saw that from the Schneider side, when I was at Schneider, well, okay, I'll give you another perfect example. So, Springfield, Missouri, I pulled a lot of freight in the spot market for Kraft. I was doing their dry macaroni and cheese, easy load. You go into Cabes, grab a load, 14,000 pounds. It either went to Champaign, Illinois, or it went all points in Michigan. I was doing that primarily in the first year I was in the spot market. And then one day it just stopped. Just stopped. Like those loads didn't exist anymore. And that told me that another carrier, which I live in Springfield, so it could have been Prime, it could have been anybody else, grabbed that, right? Grabbed it from the broker. Now, I finally get a Kraft load, and I look. I'm in the Caves, and that's partially where my name comes from, because I was in and out of Springfield Underground all the time. And lo and behold, there's Wilson Logistics with drop trailers. And then I went to the Kraft plant. They had a bunch of trailers over there. In fact, they're the ones that do their names on the side of the yard dogs. And what they had done is they went and bought a ton of Celadon dry van trailers. When Celadon went out. And they went to Kraft and said, hey, man, look what we got. Let's drop these trailers. Let's take over this logistics for you. And that's why I never saw them on the spot market. And I even looked for Wilson Logistics to see if they had a brokerage. Because obviously they can't fill every trailer, right? I saw that from the Schneider's point of view as well. There were times when, like, for example, I used to pick up a lot of water out of Niagara Water in Oklahoma City. That was one of my main routes. I had a broker that would send me to Oklahoma City for good money, and then he was able to get me out. Well, guess what? It was C.H. Robinson. But guess what? One time I went in there, and I saw that there was 20 dropped Schneider trailers. I was like, oh, well, these are going to disappear. And sure enough, he couldn't get me out of Oklahoma City anymore. And he goes, I don't know what happened. They just disappeared. I'm like, yeah, well, Schneider got it. And with Schneider having a brokerage, they could broker out the ones that they can't cover. And they could power only out the ones that they don't have tractors for. When you look at carriers like Schneider or JB Hunt, they have their own trucks, they have their own trailers, yet they have a brokered load. Where are those brokered loads usually going? They're going to places that they don't want to have to fight to get a truck out, like Wyoming, Montana, right? It's not their problem of you getting out of Wyoming if it's not their truck and their trailer. They'd rather take, just get the brokerage fee and get that profit margin that way. Now they're not worrying about trying to get a truck out of Wyoming or Montana. This is how the industry works. And broker transparency is a tiny, tiny sliver of the bigger picture. Wilson must have got a property to park a bunch of trailers. The hardest part. They did. They made a new yard. So if you're going on I-44, they had a small yard over there where ONS used to be, right there next to the interstate. It was a small joint. And then they went and built a big terminal out there on I-44 just past Stratford. So obviously they got some investors and were able to acquire some property. They were able to acquire the property, build the new terminal, and drop a bunch of trailers in more than one account there in Springfield, Missouri. And so they got pencil pushers, they got lawyers, they got data analysts that give them the edge to be able to do that. And so and don't think, most of the people that go after direct freight, most of the people that teach you how to go after direct freight, I've heard E-Carrier Check talk about this, I've heard Adam Wingfield talk about this, is you go after the smaller shippers that don't want to deal with Schneider, that don't want to deal with JB Hunt, that are more specialized, and they might only have like maybe 2 loads a month. Now that's not enough to save your business, that's not enough to maintain your business, but it's something. And trust me, word of mouth goes a long way. The next thing you know, instead of servicing a big account like Kraft and being buried by somebody like Wilson, you're addressing these small 1 and 2 truck dock warehouses, and that's what you specialize in, and you get in those, right? If you're a mom and pop operation, aim for the other mom and pop operations, because when it comes to like even a small brokerage, right? Is a small brokerage going to go into Procter and Gamble and try to get a couple of loads out of them? That's probably a big challenge when Snyder and JB Hunt can sit there and say, we can drop 100 trailers in your facility tomorrow. I mean, I think the last number count of trailers that Schneider owns was like 50,000, 50 trailers. Do you think they're worried about broker transparency? Probably not. Ceylon used to send a lot of freight into Mexico. I'm sure that Schneider did the same. They all do. My main deal with Mexico, I never took Schneider trailer down to Laredo, but I did do that with Landstar a few times. I was at the Laredo yard before they switched over to the new one several times. You had to have extra glad hand seals on you all the time. The goal of all carriers should have more work than they can haul and broker out what they don't want. And that's exactly what the big people do. And the ability to warehouse and cross dock is important too. Like C.H. Robinson doesn't have equipment, but they do have warehouses. JB Hunt's got equipment and warehouses. Sam Ballin J says, nope. Swift charges Costco $2,000 a week for each trailer. Wow. I mean, look. If you're running for Schneider, and I know some of the replay gang, runs for Schneider, you're probably frustrated when you go in the OC because there's a bunch of drop trailers in there that are loaded, and you don't have room to park. Because you know what? Walmart comes along and says they want you to pick up the loads like in October and November, and then deliver them in December. Like they use the trailers for storage. I mean, any of you Schneider guys watching, if you ever tried to find an empty trailer in Bentonville, Walmart, DC, how many of them are filled with either pallets or cardboard, right? You can never find an empty in there. And the database at Schneider would say there's 15 empties here, and I would have to put, they won't release it. They won't release it. They won't release it. And so 9 times out of 10, if I was booking a load into Bentonville, I would probably try to grab one of the paper loads out so I could have a trailer. Southbound Jay knows that game. 99%, right? So, I mean, these are the things that are stacked against you. And so the arguments are meaningless to me because and I get people are emotional about this, and I get the emotion, and I feel, right? I feel this, but I've learned a long time ago that I was more frustrated with brokers as a company driver than I was as an owner operator. And once you get to know the game, once you get to know the tricks, once you get to know which landmines you need to avoid, then it's just another day. And relationships are important. We've talked about that, and people have made fun of me for that. Okay. Keep making fun of me for that. All I know is that I'm not making 30 phone calls for each truck every single time I need to find them a load. And I learned these tricks by talking to brokers. I've learned these tricks by talking to carriers that are successful. I try not to do the one and done as much as I possibly can. And look, if you got an anytime anywhere truck, or you are an anytime anywhere truck, it doesn't hurt to go, hey, I'm looking at this load going from here to here. And you negotiate a rate. Sounds good. Okay, do you got something coming out of there? And do 2 or 3 loads from them. Boom. Now they got your email. Now they got your phone number. Now they got the ELD link. And now you've got a relationship. Now, could that end tomorrow? Yeah. Could the guy get fired? Yeah. Could they not care about you? Absolutely. Are they going to lower the rate if you're doing something dedicated for them? Absolutely. And so you got to know when to give and take. It's like a game of chess. You got to know when you got to give them an inch so you can take a mile. Right? And take advantage of the information that's given to you. These low boards, 123 and DAT, they have these hot market maps that allows you the information to know, hey, you know what? There's 1,000 loads within a 150-mile radius of Dallas today, and none for tomorrow, or only 300 for tomorrow. And guess what? That's a last-minute market. That's what we talked about on Wednesday. And I used that to my advantage. So this is what it's like to run a trucking operation. Because you've got dealerships that want your money, you've got toll companies that want your money, you've got towing companies that want your money, you've got government that wants your money, you have state ordinances that want your money. And so you got to have as much information and as much smarts as any of these other people. And if you don't have that, find the people that do and see if they'll help you. Haul the pallets and paper. Yep. Right. Big Red Company does it to not giving that one load. They all do, though. And sometimes you got to take a loss, right? There were times when box planners could not find me a trailer after my home time. So I get on the load board and I would find the load out of there was a drop lot in Arkansas. And it was like 80 cents a mile, really, when you put in my deadhead. But you know what? I had a trailer now and I can roll. Made my little quick $350, live unloading in somewhere around here, and then went on my merry way. I utilized the trailer pool to my advantage. I mean, that's what I did with Landstar too. I took their system, gathered as much information as I could, and learned how to manipulate the system. Do you think I was giving up my trailer every time I had home time? No, because I knew how to manipulate the system. That's just what you have to do. And so if rules change for the big guys, guess what? They already know, they've already planned how to manipulate the system. And so you have to have the same mindset. All right, so let's take a look at the market volumes here real quick. And then we'll probably end this live feed because I try not to go more than an hour. I've got a couple of things waiting on me. Let's share the screen here. You guys hear my cat? He's kind of silly. All right. Let's see. Load availability. Real quick for Rookie Trucker, let's look at power only out of Wisconsin. One-way trailers. That's the company you want. If you're still watching, dude. See if they have anything. These are load-out trailers is what this is. Now, load-out trailers require more risk because you got to make sure that, number one, they're DOT legal, but number two, if they're new, that there's no damage to them and that you've got a good trailer interchange insurance. TQL has a lot of power, load out trailers. Here's a new one I haven't seen before: Lunker Logistics. Now you're looking at this rate; it's only $400. Yeah, to deliver the trailer. Note 7-day load out, so you can use the trailer for 7 days. To 2025 20. So this is a brand new trailer, 40,000 in insurance. Must have trailer interchange. No progressive. And then it has the dates and times and the brokerage. Now let's take a look. Doesn't say if they're pre-approved with Thunder, so that's what I would do. Rookie Trucker is Freight Tech's got a few. Anytime you see this low rate, 99 cents a mile, whatever, these are load out trailers. If you see a legitimate rate, then that's a trailer they don't want loaded. So it could be a tanker, it could be water tank, it could be a piece of farm equipment, that kind of thing that you can't load. They just want it straightened done and moved. Like here, let's look at this Rockland to Paragold. Towaway. This is they're called towaways. Carriers, we need this trailer delivered. It cannot be loaded. And then they got a website. You know what? Let's check their website here real quick. Oops. Copy. Paste. Your trailer moving specialists. Of course, they got pictures of trucks. That's funny. Consistent moves, less bobtailing, higher margins, cut costs, trusted carriers, full coverage. You can register. At any time, our customers have hundreds of trailers to move, grab and go with the towaway, or load your own freight on a loadout. There you go. There's a brokerage that's they've been doing this for 23 years and have used 20,000 carriers. All right, let's take a look at van here. A big red company does it to not giving that one. LOL, they all do. Haul the pat. Yep. Okay, I read that. Morning from freezing Minnesota. It's freezing here too. It's like 17 degrees. Okay, I'm back. I was focusing on winter weather driving safety training. That's that time of year, just staying sharp. Absolutely. Good idea. That's what I'm doing with the USA Power Lane. I enjoy it and I plan on continuing until I'm told that I can't do it anymore. Good deal. What's it looking like, say, on a 40-foot dovetail around our area? I don't know. This is not a good low board for hot shot. All right, so this is van. Yellow. Arkansas is yellow. Louisiana's yellow. Alabama's yellow. Mississippi's red. I imagine a lot of trucks are snowbirds, and they're running south right now to avoid a lot of the snow and cold. It can make dispatching a bit of a challenge for yourself or for somebody else. Because let's take a look at the weather here. So right now you got Pennsylvania with a band of snow. You got upstate New York, of course, Buffalo area. So that's got a bit of snow. And that area has been kind of messed up for a minute. Michigan's finally calmed down. But right now, there's no, from Ohio all the way west, there's really no bad weather to be aware of, unless you're in the very upper part of Minnesota, touching Canada there in the UP. Right. So not the UP. Yeah, well, there's a tiny speck of the UP that's under that warning, but for the most part, grab and go, man. Just pay attention to what's going to happen in a couple of days. And so knowing that, you know that the rates are going to come down a little bit coming out of the south, more than they already are. So are businesses allowed to lie that when they open? Example, this business was established in 1920. I don't know. I would think that it'd be, in this day and age of the internet, that you wouldn't want to lie about something like that. So it could be considered false advertising. Oh. Let's see. Missouri's got 338 outbound, 285 inbound. Illinois is 666 outbound and 584 inbound. Indiana's got 626 outbound. So Indiana, Illinois, Indiana, of course, Ohio. Out of the Midwest states, Ohio's got the most. Wisconsin looks like it's slowed down a little bit. Kentucky's doing okay. Tennessee's doing okay. Georgia's not too bad for now. Pennsylvania's got a lot of volume coming out, and so does New York. Of course, Texas does, but in California's cooled down a little bit. Did you guys hear about that earthquake they had in Northern California, I guess, the other day? Yesterday, maybe? 7.0. All right, let's take a look at reefer. Ghost Cat brings up a very interesting topic. LOL. Every major trucking company was established before 1950. Think about that for a minute. Look at the origins of UPS. Look at the origins of Schneider. Look at the origins of JB Hunt. Look at the origins of Swift. All these big companies that have survived every freight cycle from now and from basically the early 1900s to today. How did they do it? They adapted, overcame. Some might have done some negative business practices, but either way, they've either broken the rules, created the rules, or mastered the rules. Now, I believe in having business with morality, so that's important. And when you have that kind of moral high ground, it's tough to get big, right? It's tough to get more strong because you got to do it honestly. But you don't see them, they adjust to the changes, right? Do they gripe a little bit? Yeah, they get on MSNBC and like, oh man, this sucks. But at the same time, if they're struggling, then you know that the little guy's struggling. So Big Daddy Truckin' says hit the like button. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we're probably going to get off here. This is the reefer market. Idaho, Colorado waking up, Washington. So we've got 113 outbound and 87 inbound on the Colorado market here on 123 in the reefer. And then your normal states up here, and then of course Florida and Georgia. There's only 105 outbound in Florida, but I don't know. And then let's go to flatbed and step deck. I imagine that's kind of a similar story. Northwest, Southeast, although South Carolina's cooled down, Midwest, Texas, Minnesota. Everywhere else, you're going to struggle a little bit. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. 48065, if you wish to try the 123 low board for free for 30 days for yourself, don't take my word for it. Take a look at it, curse me out later if you want. Or, thank me later if you want. Either way, it's just part of life, right? So, let's see what else. Make sure you subscribe to my other channel, Snorelord OG. I hear lately I've been doing more videos about the carnivore diet, and I have a couple interesting plans with that one. And then look for some interviews coming up. Let's see. I trained with Schneider in 95. Got to meet Don Schneider. That was cool. DIY semi. Howdy, stranger. How's it going? Haven't talked to you in a minute. Got my fuel ox for the year at 40% off Black Friday. Love that once a year deal. Wink, wink. Shannon's promotional skills out in full force. You should do a TikTok about it. See what happens. So, anyways, strength for today. Hope for tomorrow. We'll see you next week. Peace.